What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Bucci Radio. I just wanted to first and foremost thank you guys so much for all of the amazing reviews that you guys have been leaving since my podcast IFYM versus Clean Eating. I truly appreciate it so much, and we're almost at 500 reviews, and I'm so excited to release the macro calculating free ebook. So if you are listening, don't forget to leave a review on iTunes. I know a lot of you guys are Android users, so if you don't have iTunes, it's all good, but if you guys do have iTunes, I would totally appreciate a review. And if so, I am releasing a free ebook once that review number hits 500 on how to calculate your own macronutrients. I'm super excited to release it because I know it's going to be helpful to so many people. So I wanted to say thank you guys. And before we get started with this podcast, I just wanted to let you guys know how awesome you guys are. We're very lucky to have all of these tools at our exposure in order to create a business. What are you good at? What do you love? What does the world need? And how do you get paid for it? Don't wait for perfect timing because the timing will never be perfect. But if you're not actually just starting, you're never going to get anywhere. My first solo podcast that I did was 8 steps to build your social media and grow your business. And I got a lot of wonderful feedback on that particular podcast. I think it's awesome that my audience is so excited to learn about growing their business. So I'm definitely going to do these a lot more because I know that you guys are interested in it. And it just makes me really excited that you guys are so excited to elevate your business and elevate your life and personal growth and grow as people and grow as businesses. And it just makes me so happy that you guys are such amazing people and like-minded and you guys are like me. After that particular podcast, I did get a ton of questions about the specifics when it comes to starting a business, like how do I even start, one of the steps that I need to take to get there, how do I do taxes, licensing, and all that hard and confusing stuff. So in today's episode, we are going to touch on those pain points and give you guys some information to help you start the businesses that you have been putting off forever now. First off, I just want to start off by saying that you guys and myself as well, we're all in a place to start a business. We're in an entrepreneurial world where we're internet based and a lot of things are run on the internet, a lot of things are run on social media, and there's so many different things we can do. We don't have to go knocking on doors, we don't have to call people and bug them and have people answer their phone. There's just so many more opportunities when we have the internet at our exposure. We have smartphones constantly. If you guys are listening to this, you're likely listening on your smartphone or in your car or on your computer, on your laptop. So very lucky to have all of these tools at our exposure in order to create a business. So not doing that, we are just disservicing ourselves. You can literally do it sitting on your couch in your PJs if you wanted to. It's something I do quite often, actually. I'm currently sitting on my bed in my pajamas recording this podcast right now. So I just wanted to mention that we are so lucky to be in this world. And again, to not take advantage of it would just be a disservice to yourself and the potential that you have to enhance the quality of your life. With that being said, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on my working experience and how I got started in my career. A lot of you guys do know these things, but you may not know exactly how I got started and the steps that I took to create my business. So when I first got started working, I think my first job was when I was 16 or so. I worked in my grandfather's office. He gave me a $10 an hour job and I was able to file files for him, like just actually putting papers in a filing cabinet for $10 an hour. And then I would go get the office like lunch and I would do like little remedial tasks like that. And I thought it was great because I was able to like make an income and that was my first job that I ever had. And then after that, I also got a waitressing job. So I worked at a very small restaurant. It was a small enough restaurant where I could tend the bar and serve the entire restaurant by myself. It was small, but it was a really good learning experience. I was able to gain some independence and get some cash flow while I was working throughout college. And from there, I ended up moving to California and continuing to waitress in California. I just kept on waitressing and I knew waitressing was a great way to make money. I got another waitressing job when I went back to school. My senior year of college, I had a part-time waitressing job where I worked at a restaurant called the Coast Guard House in Rhode Island. For any of you Rhode Island listeners listening, I wore a tie and a button down and I wore a long apron and I served wine and fancy dishes and stuff like that. And it was really fun. It was a great learning experience and I loved being able to make some money in college. Previously, I have student loans that I was using to pay for college. So it was really nice to have some sort of income coming in where I wasn't worried about whether or not I would be able to have enough money for groceries the next day. I am not saying that I was struggling too much with money. Like, I'm not super, super well off, but my family was able to help me if I was ever struggling or anything like that. So having extra money to me was honestly just being financially independent from my parents. I did not want them to continue paying for things for me. I knew that I was becoming an adult, and I knew that I wanted to create my own income, be completely independent from them, and I didn't want to have to rely on anybody for my life to continue to happen. I knew I wanted to keep doing things, and I wanted to make my own income. So I hustled hard, and I had that waitressing job. But in the midst of all that, I was utilizing Instagram a ton, and a ton of people were asking me questions, and that's how I got started using my social media to grow my business. So with all the questions that I got asked, I would allow people to have my email address, and I would say, yeah, you can ask me questions via email. It's easier for me to type on email instead of respond back in a DM or in a comment section or something like that. So I started just like responding back to people's emails a ton with questions, and I would notice myself like spending hours writing paragraphs back to people, answering their questions, and I was trying to think like, how can I like make a business out of this? Like, people are asking me questions. I'm trying my best to find the correct answers and looking up research in order to provide these people with the right answers to their questions, because I didn't want to leave them hanging, nor did I want to give them the wrong information. So I just took that and I said, you know what, like maybe I can just get 1 or 2 clients to start with. And I know a few other people that do online coaching, and I've seen it on the internet and stuff. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start. I'm just going to take one client, and someone in particular that was a friend of mine. She was a makeup artist for me once. She was my first client, and she was like, you know what, it's totally okay. Like, I know that you're not super experienced as an online coach, but like I know that you know what you're talking about, and I feel really, really comfortable talking to you. So I'm going to hire you, and it's okay. Like, I want you to be my coach. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So I took on my first client, and I charged her something like really not that expensive. I forget exactly what I charged. I used her as like a guinea pig and as a learning experience for me. And it was really great to be able to help somebody else that wasn't just me experimenting on my own body. I was able to see how the things that I knew for myself would work on somebody else. And I made sure to keep everything conservative and everything like that. But honestly, that first step, just saying yes to somebody, even though I was not experienced, I was not super well informed, I didn't have any business type of thing set up. Like, I barely even had, I think I just started a PayPal account just for that. I did not have a website yet. I think pretty immediately after that, I bought my own domain name, amandabuccifit.com, and I started a website. I used a template that GoDaddy had, and I just tried to figure out a website so I could like have other people be able to go to it. But honestly, just taking that first step and just saying yes to that one person was really what catapulted the rest of my online coaching business experience. So from there, I was sharing her progress on my Instagram, and other people were starting to get excited because they were like, wow, like I think that's awesome, and you're so helpful, and you constantly give out free information. So my coaching business experience started from the social media aspect of Instagram, and people just continued to want to be my client. And I started to learn more and more ways to market myself as an online coach, utilize my website and stuff like that to create more and more clientele. And with that, I maintained and got more money throughout college. I remember at the very end of college was when I had a few clients. I probably had like 10, 15 or so. And then I was moving to California at the end of college, and I was prepping for a show, and I had a few clients, and I was already super, super busy, and I was finishing up my waitressing, and I was like, I need a way to make money without taking on more clients because I'm going to be so busy when I move. So that's when I wrote the Everything Guide to Macro Tracking. I wrote it in 1 month. It was my last month of college. It was April. I was finishing my senior year of nursing school, and in all of my free time, like whatever free time was my last semester of nursing school, I don't even know what it was, to be completely honest. But with that small amount of free time that I had, I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and I just wrote it up in a Word document, and I was like, this is going to be great. It's going to help so many people, and it's going to be a great way to provide people something that's tangible, something that's helpful, and something that'll provide me an income without me having to provide services to people. And that actually did so well for me, and it's still continuing to do well for me as a product that I offer, and something that's continuing to help people and fill a need for them. And I saw that pretty immediately. So continuing on from there, I graduated from nursing school, and I actually ended up moving to California and getting a job at a surgical center because I was still pretty sure that I was going to go in the medical career field. Continuing on from there, I continued to work at that surgical center, but I was also doing online coaching and starting my YouTube channel. And eventually I was making just as much money, if not more, doing online coaching and loving it so much that I was if I were to be working full-time at that surgical center. So I ended up having to make the decision eventually to just go full-time. I dedicated all of my time and energy into my business. I focused on marketing my online coaching more, more, marketing my YouTube channel more, my Instagram was growing. I was just spending all of my time and focus doing that, and physically putting all of that focus into one thing instead of half-assing two different things changed everything for me. So that's a little bit of my background and my experience. Now I'm going to give you guys 7 of my biggest tips and tricks for starting your own online business and starting a startup business. So let's get into it. All right, so tip number 1 in starting a startup business is going to be figure out what your business is. How do you figure out what your business is? So the things that I usually ask people in terms of when they ask me what they think their business should be, what are you good at? What do you love? What does the world need, and how do you get paid for it? Passion is what you're great at and what you love combined. Profession is what you are paid for and what you're great at combined. Vocation is what the world needs plus what you are paid for. And a mission is what the world needs plus what you love. What all of those things together are, what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and how you can get paid for it, is your purpose. So you might not be just figuring out your purpose completely immediately off the bat, but at least understanding that finding something that you're pretty good at, finding something that you absolutely love, finding something that will help solve a problem for people, and finding a way that you can get paid for it is a pretty good way to figure out what your business is going to be. For me, finding that business was absolutely loving helping people. I was really good at fitness and explaining things to people in a way that they can understand. I knew that a lot of the world did need and still needs someone to help coach them through their fitness journeys, and I can get paid for it by providing a coaching service to people. Number 2 is to find clarity. So figure out what you're actually going to sell and provide, and making sure it's very clear to not only you, but to your audience as well. So how will you make money, and how will you exactly provide something to someone that they can purchase from you and that you can serve to them? Doing things for free and helping others is definitely great, and you should definitely look at your business as something fun and that you would do for free if you had to. But again, we all have to actually make a living. So thinking about how you can make a living from it is actually a good way to switch your mindset. So if your message is unclear to people, they won't get it and they'll become disinterested. You may not know this at first, but getting as clear as possible to begin with is going to help you in the long run. So if people can't figure out what you're providing to them in 5 or 10 seconds on your website, then they're just going to ditch your website and not really know exactly what you're offering them. So making sure you're clear and having clarity in what your message is, what your service is, what you're providing to people is super, super important in when starting a business. Number 3, which actually should be like number 1, is really to just start. So whatever that means for you personally, every single business is different, but if you're not actually just starting, you're never going to get anywhere. Being too scared can halt anything from actually happening in our lives. So this is going to be a quote from one of my friends, Dustin. He said that learning and gathering information is a never-ending process, so you might as well start your business now and continue to learn as you go. Don't wait for perfect timing, because the timing will never be perfect. So that is a quote from my friend Dustin Lean. He is my marketing consultant, so if y'all are interested in a marketing consultant, he helps me with my email list and stuff like that. He is a badass at his job, honestly. So his information is going to be on my blog post that is connected to all these podcasts. You can go to his website, fitflyshaker.com, or his blog, strategicsauce.com. Both awesome places to check him out. You can also get his free book, It's Time to Start, which connects back to this message. So make sure you guys check him out at strategicsauce.com. So going back to that message, if you don't start, you will literally never get anywhere. So for example, I knew I was going to start this podcast 5 months before I actually recorded my first interview, guys. I knew I was starting a podcast 5 months before I recorded my first interview, which is embarrassing to admit, I'm not going to lie. But I was just really nervous to start recording an interview. I knew I wasn't super interview based. I've never interviewed people before. I was just really nervous with working the equipment, and it was a learning curve for me. It's not something that I was comfortable with. It's not something that I was used to. I kept putting it off, and I didn't just start for quite a long time. And I'm not going to say it's not something that I'm guilty of too, because I have been there. Trust me, I've been in your guys' position here. So I mean, after I started, things got so much easier. Doing my first interview, it made me feel more confident. It made me feel more comfortable. And then I started booking more and more interviews. And now I have 10 interviews backed up for the rest of the year. And I'm pretty solid on interviews for the next 3 or 4 months. So that's an amazing thing that can happen when you literally just start. Information overload can cause a lot of people to be paralyzed by fear of screwing up. So what that that means is really just there's so much information out there, guys, and you can spend time and time again, hours digging and learning and finding the right information to help you start up. But too much information can be overwhelming and it can be scary and you might not even know what to do with it. Something that helps me is to just read all of it, but take bits and pieces that are helpful and relevant to you. So if you read something, take the 3 or 1 or 2 bits and pieces that actually make sense for you and write them down, and then write your own little blog or journal about that and have that for your notes, something to refer back to, because not everything is going to be super relevant to you, but if there's some things that really stick out to you, write those down and put those in a journal, because those are the things that are actually going to help you and benefit you when you're creating everything. So tip number 4, something a lot of people ask is balancing your new business and your entrepreneurship with your current job. So a lot of you guys who are listening either have a different job, something that you might not be passionate about and or not see long term for yourself, or you're in school or you don't have a job yet. Something that I highly recommend to people that might be slightly controversial is that I think it's important to take a strategic and more cautionary approach to this situation. I know a lot of people might just say like, risk it all, like drop out of college, it's totally okay, you can totally follow your dreams, chase your dreams, and it's all gonna be fine as long as you hustle and put in the work. And like, I think that's just really non-responsible advice, I think, honestly. And I tend to take the precautionary and strategic, less risky, I guess, pathway to this, only because putting all your eggs in one basket can be scary and not everybody's just gonna take off immediately. I think it's a little bit different if you have a plan set up already, if you have a business plan, if you know exactly what your steps that you're going to be taking once you do drop out, if you know that it's definitely a market and an audience for what you're going to be selling and offering to people, if they're definitely going to be buying it. But it's not smart to just quit what you're doing right now and like quit your job and start a YouTube channel. Like it's just not a smart thing to do if you don't have any backup plan to pay your bills and to allow you to live your life. Something that's really important is that your day job is your investor. So it's going to be the money that allows you to do the things that you want to do in the future. So I recommend not quitting what you're currently doing until you've made more than that a month from your passion project that you've made at your other job. So if you have enough to pay the bills and some left over doing what you love to do part-time, I think that's a good time to maybe consider leaving your job or to taking less hours or to slowly back off from what you're currently doing in order to be full-time with what you want to do. So I personally did both. Again, like I said, I spent a lot of time working a day job. Like I was in school working a waitressing job and coaching all at the same time. And I spent my quote unquote free time doing the coaching because that's what I loved and I knew was going to make me a long-term success. But I still had to finish school and I still had to work at another part-time job in order to like live my life. Again, I tend to be on the precautionary side of that. So number 5, do you need to get a license right away? So a lot of people ask me like, do I have to set up an LLC? Like, how do I even do that? How do I even go about doing that? Like, this is a confusing topic for a lot of people, and it is, and still it was for me, especially for starting. There's a few different ways to go about getting a license. So you can actually be a sole proprietor in the beginning. That just means that you're working under your own name for a long time until you're like really making a substantial amount of money, where that substantial amount of money or whatever service that you're offering, you need to kind of protect yourself. You should stay with being a sole proprietor for the beginning only because it's easy and you can work under your own name, and you can do this until you grow to a point where you feel like you need to protect yourself. In that case, I would upgrade to an LLC, and that point that you're working under a different name. So I am Amanda Bucci, but my LLC is Amanda Bucci Fit LLC. So all of my business is under that. So anything that has to do with my business, so not this podcast is actually a separate LLC. Bucci Radio is separate from Amanda Bucci Fit, but I do have Amanda Bucci Fit that's under like my YouTube and my brand deals, and also my coaching services is under Amanda Bucci Fit LLC. So it's not Amanda Bucci and it's not me, it's my business is that as well. So you can go on your state's business website, or you can go to sba.gov to get more information on licensing and stuff. Actually, I didn't even get an LLC until I went full-time, and that's when I decided to get my LLC. So you can wait a little bit, make sure that your business is going to actually be a business, and make sure that you know what you're doing. You might not know what you're doing in terms of getting a license, and I'm not a super expert on that. I would definitely recommend going to sba.gov, which is smallbusinessassociation.gov, to get more information on that. Number 6, bank stuff. Number 2 of the confusing, scary things that you might need to do to set up a business that you might just avoid like the plague because you have no idea anything about it. So number 1 is I would recommend setting up a business account for your business. So once you have a business, you have an LLC. So I personally have Amanda Bucci Fit as a business account as well. So whatever your business is, I would get a separate banking account for your business. You can just go to your local bank, set up an appointment. In order to do this, they'll give you all the information you need. I would also get a credit card and use your credit card for everything that you possibly can. You can rack up cashback, rewards, you can get rewards for traveling, things like that. And using your credit card will help you also to just separate your business expenses from your personal expenses. So when it comes to business versus personal expenses, I'm going to get into more of that now. So as a business owner and as a small business itself, you're going to need to file for taxes separately. So I am not a tax expert, so we're not going to go super in depth here. I do have a CPA and I do recommend getting one, or an accountant or a bookkeeper. You can also just use QuickBooks, the app, in order to track all of your expenses and track all of your receipts and stuff like that. But again, I'm not a tax expert, so we're not going to go super in depth on this. But basically, since you're not paying taxes through your job weekly or bi-weekly through your paycheck, as a regular job or a government job or a job through your business, you pay taxes through your employer or through the government, and then you get taxes taken out of your paycheck. So when you're a small business and you own your own business, you don't taxes taken out of any paychecks ever. So you're going to have to eventually pay taxes to the government at the end of the year. That being said, I would highly recommend something that I was told after I started my business and I was like, oh shit. I would highly recommend saving 30% of your income. I know that's a big number, but it's very safe to save around 30% of your income just in case, because you're going to have to pay that back in taxes at the end of the year, depending on how much money you made. So I remember the first time someone told me that, I was like, I totally didn't do that. So don't get yourself into that situation. Another reason to keep your day job is until you feel like 70% of your small business earnings will pay both your bills and go back into your business, then it's still safe, more safe to keep your day job. You're also going to be tracking all of your expenses as well. So I would keep track of the things that go into your business. So if you work from home, if you travel, if you have to buy any equipment, if you have to buy any uniforms, there is a lot of stuff that can be written off, guys. Anything and everything that has to do with your business personally. So for example, if I film a full day of eating or something like that, I can write off that grocery list for tax expenses. So I can write off $60 if I paid $60 for the grocery trip or whatever, and I can write that off my taxes. What that means exactly, I know writing things off in taxes, you might not know what that means. What that means exactly is that when you add up all of your money that you made at the end of the year, you can subtract the amount of money that you paid for business related items of that amount. So the amount of money you make total subtracted by the amount of money you write off equals the amount of money that you get taxed on at the end of the year. So again, I would keep receipts. I would use QuickBooks. There's an app on your phone, super easy to use. And again, I know all the bank stuff might be a little bit confusing, but at the end of the day, you just have to think about your safety at the end of the year and making sure that you're not spending more than you should be paying in taxes, or if you're not spending too much that isn't going to go back into your business. Number 7, create a website/profile. So I say /profile only because you don't necessarily have to create a website in the beginning of your business. So again, if you're just starting up and your business is online, you can utilize social media and you can utilize your profiles as your landing page or as the place that people go to you to see what your business is all about. When I first started, like I said, I didn't create a website for like a few months before I even started my business, but I utilized social media a lot. People use Instagram, people use emails, people use blogs, things like that to provide people with free information and show people like, hey, I'm also providing this service or I'm also selling this product. If you're selling like a tangible product, you're gonna actually want to set up a website, use Shopify or something like that. But if you're just selling services or you're selling something like that, you don't necessarily need a website to start off with if you're not financially ready and able to buy a website. I think I bought my first website for like $97 for the year, something like that. It was pretty cheap, but at the time it wasn't cheap for me. So I was like, you know what? I'm committing to this, $97 for the year. I think I can handle that. And I just did it. Creating easy to use website is definitely important and highly recommended. Like I said, you can utilize social media as your website if you need to. So a lot of people use Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as their article. You can use direct messages to email back and forth. Nowadays, like I said, things are just different and we have to utilize what's right in front of us. So you can direct people to an email. You can collect payment via PayPal, Facebook, Venmo, etc. And if you have tangible products, that's not just a service, you may, again, like I said, want to look into different sites that can help you provide your customers with a product. But if you do want to start up a website, you can use something like Wix or Wix, GoDaddy, WordPress, Squarespace, and other websites that will host your website to create an easy to use website. And there are plenty of templates that you can just easily follow. You can follow directions, you can watch tutorials, things like that. Don't be afraid to contact customer service as well. They are there for a reason. But when you're creating a website, something that you might not think about is to just make sure that your message is very clear, guys. Like I said before, make sure that people know what they're coming to your website for and what they're getting once they arrive there. So don't add anything busy or like a graphic or a video unless it actually enhances that message. You don't want things to be too distracting and take away from your message. Make sure there's a call to action for people to either buy, join, learn more, download, sign up for an email list, etc. And make sure that you're collecting those people's emails so you can utilize your email list to provide updates, information, and quality content to those who are already interested enough in your brand to be joining it. And then also people check their email every single day. So making sure you start an email list and being in front of people's faces in that way is super important. So those are my 7 to-dos when starting a small business, but I'm also going to leave you guys with 4 not to-dos really quick before we end this podcast. So 4 things not to do when starting a small business. Number 1, don't wait too long to launch. You should be embarrassed of your first product that you launch, and if you're not, you waited too long. Number 2, don't solve a problem that not enough people need fixing. So if you are thinking about starting a business, or if you're thinking about selling a product, but not enough people are interested in buying it, you're not solving a important enough problem, that might be an issue for you. So if you're putting all this effort into starting a business when not too many people are interested, you might just want to rethink. Instead of trying to think about growing a larger audience, you're going to want to think about finding a more important problem to solve for people. Number 3, don't not listen to customers, guys. This is hugely important. So a lot of people might be starting a business and be excited for those customers that validate them. They might just only think about those customers and they might just be like, you know what? These customers that are validating me, those are going to be my go-to customers. But it's actually not true. The opposite is true. Those customers that are challenging you, those customers that are looking for a refund, those customers that are looking to leave a poor review on whatever product or service that you're offering, those are the people that are going to help your business the most. You want to ask those customers, what could you do better? What did you do wrong? What did you not feel satisfied with for your product or service? And then you're going to take that information, guys, use that as a learning experience and get better. And lastly, number 4, do not confuse business with the blog or other social media. So a lot of people ask me like, how do you get paid on Instagram? And like Instagram and social media and blogs don't pay you. They don't give you money. Growing an audience is great, but honestly, it's not the platform that pays you. The platform is there as a tool to build an audience and build influence and serve your customers. It's not there to pay you. It's all about what you do with it. So don't confuse business with your blog or your social media account. So that is going to be all for the podcast today, guys. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Bucci Radio. Don't forget to leave a review on iTunes if you have iTunes, and I will catch you guys in the next episode.